And the thing that has become of interest to me lately is creating unfakeable identities. View that as a pretty fascinating problem. How do I know it's the Pete Rizzo that made a series of choices in their life that I'm now talking to?
Is it based on public key cryptography in the way that, on Bitcoin, I essentially identified by my public and private key pair?
That is right. You're identified by two things. You're identified by the key pair, but also your identity grows as you sign things. Okay. Each each time you sign, you are defining who you are. Okay. And I think as people create content, they are defining who they are digitally. And as people sign off on content, they are defining who they are digitally. And we're very interested in creating a persistent identity that grows in utility as it asserts itself. Um, and in a practical sense, we're interested in how do I know what's real and fake on the internet broadly writ.
And
That's
is there a blockchain component to that, or how does that?
absolutely. There are. I was in a conversation just this morning where someone said, "Is there a blockchain-ish component to it?" And there very much is. It's about needing a universal public ledger. It's about people widely witnessing events. It's about creating a network of a kind of genesis block for each identity that is embedded in other um, identities, and it creates a recursive system not unlike Google PageRank in its initial consideration, where you can basically block out the key websites based on how PageRank recursively assigned them weight. There's a way to incrementally and recursively assign the weight of identity to someone so that you become more and more confident that you are talking or you are looking at a piece of work that is endorsed by this continuous identity that persists year after year. Um, I think that,
What kind of applications are you hoping that might have?
well, it has some very practical ones. I, I think, you know, I, I've been involved in AI longer than I've been involved in working on blockchain like things. My dissertation out of Stanford was, I believe, the first neural networks based dissertation that they issued. And so I think what interests me are running things to their asymptote and seeing what shakes out. And I think, for example, the efforts to use AI to detect AI deepfakes is something that is a non-winnable situation. And so I think changing the terrain for the battle, in fact, I think leads to wanting to assert identity rather than detect um, deception. And I think there's some very promising avenues that are very decentralizing, very empowering of individuals um, in creating an identity and projecting it.
Hmm. What are the centralizing concerns there that you're pushing against?
Well, in other words, I want identity established. I just have this feeling in my bones, if you will, that I want identity established without any use of biometrics, without any use of federally issued credentials, akin to my, sort of mid-range feelings about stablecoins. I don't want identity transferred to me by some government agency. And I don't see the purpose of proving personhood so much as I see the importance of asserting an identity and an agent that persists. So You asked about practical applications. I can give you a
I use it to tell, for example, that you weren't using an AI software to give this interview right now.
well, but if it was directed by the person that did this 30 years ago and this next thing 25 years ago and has these friends and so on and so forth, in a sense, I don't think in the long run that will matter whether, this is an AI generated extension of me or not. It's following the record of decisions and choices I've made in life, and whether you consider the content I create to be of value to you. It really doesn't matter whether it's synthesized or not. Um, so again, I think I still want to come back to just very practical use cases. Is this the person? Warren Buffett once a year auctions off, at least he used to, lunch with Warren Buffett, right? And for $250,000 or whatever, it goes to some charity, and you can have lunch with Warren Buffett. Um, what if you had a virtual situation like that? Maybe you're willing to pay a lot of money, but it'd darn well be Warren Buffett that you're interacting with. Okay. Um, what if you need to offer something for sale to someone, and it takes time and energy to make your pitch? You want to make sure that you're offering it to someone that's interested in that product and has the resources to pay for it. Okay. So I think identities become important in very practical, both economic as well as, the FBI telling you that your family should have a safe word uh, to use. And I think the proper creation and of cryptographic key pairs and the proper binding them to persistent identities is very valuable.